Hey everybody, so it's quite late, but there's a tweet that I really wanted to talk about, so I'm gonna do that now. So there's this tweet by this guy named Sid that goes as follows. The reason young men flock to alt-right MRA movements is because the left gives brain-dead advice to young men. We need to be more compassionate to them for our own sake. So this tweet is going wild on my Twitter right now personally. Like, a lot of people hate it. Some people really like it. Vosh is into it, whatever. Personally, the tweet doesn't really make me mad at all because I think the outcome it describes is good. It's good to be compassionate to men. And if the left can do a better job of that, then that's great. That said, I have some problems with this tweet, like a weird amount of problems with this tweet, and I just wanted to talk you through them because I find it really interesting. The first is, I'm not sure exactly what advice the left is giving to young men that is brain dead. Like, what are people saying? What's going on? It's not super helpful to the conversation, I think, to present the left as a group of people presenting young men terrible advice without getting into the nature of that advice, what's actually going on. I know a bunch of leftists, and they tend to say just normal shit all day, every day. So I'm not sure what the actual thing is here. Problem number two, maybe this is the obvious one. This tweet here doesn't really account for other extremely important factors at play here, right? For example, what of patriarchy? You know, we've lived in a very sexist society for a very long time. Feminism is a recent phenomenon, and so I think it makes sense that people are still attracted to the patriarchy as an idea. Are young men flocking to conservative movements because of some deficiency in leftist advice? Or does it come down more to the fact that they were born in conservative households, told to believe conservative things growing up? You know, who are Andrew Tate's major fans and who are their parents? Who did their parents vote for in the last election? People do believe in an ideology that calls for suppressing others, suppressing women in particular. And so that's something we should think about here. Also, you know, what of material factors, right? The cost of living going up and COVID-19 and political disarray. These instabilities also probably contribute to men feeling a certain way. I find this tweet claiming the reason young men flock to alt-right movements very reductive. Third, I think this tweet kind of comes with the implication that giving people advice, like self-help advice, is this really important, impactful thing, when I just disagree. I don't really think that self-help online advice is all that helpful to people because I think you already know all the advice that anybody on the internet could possibly tell you. If I was asked, Big Joel, what advice do you give to young men? This is what I'd say. Young men, do things that are good, in your opinion. Do things that you think are good. I don't imagine that I have a better answer for what those things are than you do. You know yourself, but, of course, you know what those things are. Maybe you think exercising is good. Maybe you think you should pick up a skill. Maybe you think you should leave the house more. What you gotta do, really, is do those things. That is an extremely difficult task. Don't get me wrong. It's something that I struggle with every day, obviously. It's a fundamental part of being a human, of being alive, is struggling against your own will. Not doing things that are good can feel comfortable and easy, and doing things that challenge you can be really quite unpleasant. But you should try to do them anyway because you know that they're good. Maybe some of you listening to that advice thought, yeah, that is really helpful, and I did need to hear that today. And I believe that's totally fine. But at the same time, hearing me say that is not going to change your life. Because you already know that good things are good and bad things bad, and without knowing you, there's really not much more that anyone can really tell you. Hey, just one small note I wanted to say. This video is not my way of saying that all advice on the internet is bad and that the people who are giving it are all grifting you and that there's no place for it. I don't believe that. I just think it's an extremely small part of a network with things that are vastly, vastly more important than it. The amount of impact that some guy on the internet will have on your life when they give you advice on how to get motivated or whatever is, I think, fairly small in the grand scheme of things, and that's my point. Okay. And I think that is really what interests me about this tweet, why I wanted to talk about it tonight. It can be really, really easy to think that the problem with society, the problem with people, is that the right words are not being said to them, and that if we simply edited those words in the right way and came out with the right guy who said the right things, then everything would be okay. It's convenient and fun to believe that because words are cheap as fuck. Anybody can say any of them. And if we did crack that particular nut, if we did come out with the right words, great, problem solved. No more issues. I don't have any kind of problem with treating men compassionately. I hope that I do treat the men in my audience compassionately, whatever that means. But it's just not enough.